Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jess, Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Hey, poddies, how exciting is this? We're mid-March, the storms are done. I always get very excited about March because I'm like, this is the real spring for me. And I was very excited recently when I heard that we were going to have like a bumper crop of small animals in the New Forest. So for those of you who don't live in the UK or just don't know what the New Forest is, I live near this place called the New Forest, and it's basically where wild ponies roam around and like cows just roam around all day long, eating and doing whatever they do. And so every year you get to see all of the babies, and it's so cute. Like, I have no feelings towards human children, but anything with four legs that's furry, all over that. So apparently it's going to be a bumper year for baby animals. So if you do happen to hit up the New Forest, or you can go to Dartmoor or somewhere like that, where they also have this kind of thing, watch out, because there will be lots of fluffy, small, four-legged creatures ambling around, and it's all very cute. So thanks for those of you who are still leaving reviews. I do appreciate it. If you haven't left a review yet, we've got something exciting coming for you to explain how you can leave a review to make it nice and easy for you. So if you haven't been able to leave a review because you've been getting a little bit stuck, check out the show notes, because there is a link to a handy little guide that will show you exactly how to leave a review. Now, I also have to credit one of my clients here, Sarah Clark. She is amazing. She is the founder of the Fab Fertile method. She helps women or couples to conceive and get pregnant naturally. She runs an awesome podcast, and she recently came into the mastermind and showed this amazing document that helped people leave reviews, and I was like, I want one of those. And so I went to my team and I was like, okay, we have to make one of these because it's really, really cool. So massive shout out to Sarah, because it was completely something that she had done that I thought, that's just so handy and so useful. So massive thank you to Sarah for showing me what I could be doing. It's always good to learn. Now, today's episode has come about because I am seeing an awful lot of people who are getting very, very overwhelmed in the B2C space at the moment. So people who are selling business to consumer. And frankly, it really upsets me that there are so many people who are still buying into such crazy amounts of the bullshit that just goes around in the online space day to day. And I'm getting so tired of seeing people who are honestly, they're working like 80-hour weeks and not getting any clients. And I'm just like, how? How are you doing that? And I don't mean how are you doing that in the, oh my God, you must be so like unable to do anything that you're just not making this happen kind of way. I just mean, how are we in 2020 and this is still happening, and people still think that it's totally okay to take like a year to get your first B2C client? It's not okay. The amount of overwhelm is not okay. There are many things about this that are not okay. But I want to run this episode just to give you an idea of some of the things that you really should be doing to get clients consistently, and some of the things that you just need to ditch. Okay. This may be painful, I'm going to be honest, because sometimes when I give people advice, it's not always taken necessarily well. All right. And I've noticed this recently. So I actually had an interesting side story to tell you here. So I recently opened up the Selling to Corporates Facebook group. By the way, it's amazing. If you have been considering selling to corporates, you're not in it yet, go and get in it. It's great. And it's a place where everyone can have really good conversations and, ask some questions and things like that. And it's a really cool community, and it's actually nice and easy to run. It's a good place for me to spend time, and I'm enjoying it. Anyway, the other thing that I've noticed is that, as with any community, when questions are asked, everybody wants to help, right? So everyone offers good opinions and things like that. The best thing about this community is that it has not become this is the blind leading the blind territory. Like, people are not just taking advice blindly in there. And they're not going in necessarily and sharing advice blindly either. They're saying, this is what I think I have experienced and maybe it could benefit you. Or it will be interesting to see what Jess says about that, rather than, just going off and being like, here's a blog post from some random that we don't know that might help. And I think that's really important, because so much of what we see and so much of what is causing the overwhelm in the selling to consumer space is that people are blindly following advice from people who may or may not be qualified to actually give it. And that's something that, can be painful to recognize when we are then hearing advice from something that is proven or that has been strategized or that works. Okay. And so that's what I want to make sure that we cover off today, is giving practical advice that has worked for some of the biggest business strategists that you see out there, that is relevant, that is recent, that is still working, most importantly. It's up to you what you choose to do with the advice. You can choose to go, do you know what, Jess, not interested, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and eventually it's going to work and whatever, and that's cool. Or you can choose to go, this might make me feel a little uncomfortable. What I'm currently doing is not working for me, so I'm prepared to change some of it, all of it, whatever, in line with the kind of strategies that you hear today. So totally fine to feel however you want about the episode. I'm cool about it. Feel free to reach out if you get some value. Let me know. Email me, jessica@jessicalorimer.com. I even reply to every email personally. It takes me forever, but I love it. Sometimes it does take me a little while to respond, so don't be surprised if you email me and then like 3 weeks later I pop in, I'm like, I'm so sorry, my inbox was snowed under. It doesn't mean that your email wasn't important. It just means that I have not got my ish together when it comes to managing the mountain of emails I get every week. Okay, so let's dive in and let's start busting a couple of myths around the overwhelm that you might be experiencing when it comes to consistently creating clients in your business and getting some practical advice on what you'll be doing instead. So, myth number 1, I'm literally dancing as I'm doing this. I'm like shoulder shimmying because I am so tired of hearing people that are doing everything, right? I'm so tired because I listen to the activities that some people are doing and I'm tired because I'm like, oh my God, you're doing such a lot of stuff and it overwhelms me. So if you are somebody who has been told or who is currently battling with the I must do all of the things syndrome, stop. For your own sanity and for, all things that are revenue generating activities. It can be really easy to get caught up in I must have every social media platform and I must be present on all of them and I must be immediately reactive on them all. And I must also have a podcast, a YouTube channel, blog, get featured in magazines, speak on stages, and deliver to clients. Not to mention give free value in Facebook groups, show up on Twitter chats, and do all of the other things that position you as being a helpful person and hopefully an expert in your space. I kid you not. The amount of stuff that I see people doing and the amount of platforms and the amount of original content they're creating everywhere is insane. Okay. I spoke to somebody last week and I kid you not, I told them that I was going to talk about this on the podcast and they absolutely okayed it. So thank you very much. You know who you are. But I spoke to somebody last week who was incredibly overwhelmed. And we were on a discovery call and they said to me, I don't understand why I'm finding it such a challenge to get clients. And I said, okay, so tell me what you're currently doing. Like, what are the activities that you're currently doing to try and get clients every week? And they said, I'm producing TikTok videos twice a week. I'm on LinkedIn going live twice a week. I'm posting LinkedIn posts 3 to 4 times a day on the platform every day, Monday to Sunday. I'm on Facebook posting on my business page once a day, and then I post on my personal profile a couple of times a week. I'm tweeting. I'm on Instagram posting 3 to 4 times a day, every day. I'm on Pinterest repurposing my content. And I was like, what? And they went, yeah. And I'm thinking that I might have to get a YouTube channel on top of that. And I'm just like, oh my God, that is a lot of work. That's 9 platforms. That's 9 sources of original content, and some multiple times per day. That is insanity. And when I asked, well, I did this in true Jess fashion. I was like, okay, cool. So how's that working for you? They cried. And I'm not surprised. If I was doing that amount of work, I would cry too. And they were just so frustrated that they were doing all this work and that it wasn't paying off, and that they were getting like 2 clients a month. And fair enough, they're high ticket clients, like all good. But for that amount of work, you couldn't pay me enough because it's just too much. It's too overwhelming. And I see people talking about this a lot. Everyone's like, oh, I need to be on the big new platform because Gary Vee said that, Snapchat's going to be the next big thing and I don't want to miss out. And I get it. But you've also got to be strategic about what you do. Now, one of my friends, Janet Murray, I talk about Janet a lot because Janet, her social media presence is like the epitome of everything that I would love to have in life, but I'm too lazy to do. She's a great person to follow. Her Instagram platform is stunning. Like, it's all color coordinated and her quotes are great and her captions are really good. And she does these really cool stories. And then you go on and you look at her social media platforms across, and, her Facebook business page is lovely and it's all congruent and it's all tied in. And, she's got this brilliant podcast and her blogs that back up the podcast are awesome. And I'm like, oh my God. She is incredible. Now, don't get me wrong, Janet is a superhero when it comes to actually creating content. She's somebody who can create easily more content than anybody else that I know. And that is her special talent in life, right? She comes from a journalism background. She's used to being really wordy. She's used to running stories quickly. What she's always also honest about is that she has a team to help her, right? She has a team of people who help her plan, well, not plan because she does that herself, but she has a team of people who help her with design. She has a team of people who help her to make the most of the platforms that she's on. She might create the actual content, but she's not sat there necessarily plugging it into every platform, apart from Instagram, which I spoke to her about recently. So this is another top tip. We spoke about this recently, and she talked about the fact that she was posting organic posts herself and not using a scheduler. So in that way, she's a complete hero. But she also runs a course about building your online audience. And what I really love about the way that she runs that course is that she completely busts the myth that you have to be good at everything, especially right at the beginning. She segments that course, so you learn about social media first, and then you learn about blogging, and then you learn about books or whatever. And I think that's really important to know. A lot of the people that you follow online have help, right? The bigger business mentors, the people who are huge in your health and well-being space, they're not necessarily sat there every day posting on Instagram, posting on Pinterest, doing a little Snapchat, what's it, on TikTok. It might not be them actually doing all of those things. I'm very open with you guys. I openly tell you I'm too lazy to do most of that stuff. So what ends up happening is that at the beginning of every single month, I batch my content. So at the beginning of every single month, I batch my content for the following month. We're always working a month ahead. And I create all of my podcast episodes. So I do the research for them, I record them, I upload them and make sure my editors got them in advance. I write all of my newsletters. So we do 2 a week, Wednesdays and Fridays. If you're not on the newsletter list, get on it. It's great. I write all of the social posts. And I use a lot of this content. I repurpose a lot of this content so it feels different, it looks different, but actually it's designed to be congruent. And I do that because it's easier for me. Because if I had to be reactive all of the time, I just would never cope, right? But then I have a team who is able to sit there and create Canva graphics for me, or to actually schedule it into Meet Edgar, which is the scheduling system that we use. I have a team who can chase me multiple times and be like, Jess, we need you to write this newsletter that you've missed. And that is how I'm able to show up in different places. It's not because I'm the one posting on my Facebook page at 9 o'clock in the morning and then suddenly 8 p.m. at night. It's not it. It's scheduled. You know, we don't hide it. I'm quite transparent about it. Maybe not everybody is. Maybe that's why we feel like we have to be doing all of this stuff all of the time, but you don't. So stop, right? If you're somebody who's currently doing all of the things, stop doing them. This is tip number one, right? If you want to get clients more consistently, you want it to be easier. Pick one thing that you're good at now and do that really well. It's so underrated, right? So underrated. I look at some of the most successful people that I know, and they're very good at dominating their space, but they don't actually produce tons of content. Janet is my unicorn for that. She's somebody who produces a lot of content and is relevant. That is down to what her business is focused around. It's about building your online audience. So if she wasn't building audiences regularly and across different platforms, I'd be a little bit surprised, right? But everybody that I know who is successful, who's multi-6 figures or multi-7 figures in business, and they're selling B2C, they're doing one thing and they're doing it well. So for example, Ali Brown, that's her podcast. Ali's podcast is her source of lead generation. It's her conversations with other leading women in her space or in the business world that differentiate her podcast, makes it stand out and makes people at a certain level want to listen to it. And therefore it produces clients, it produces leads. And that's the thing that she does really well. And yeah, sure, you know, she sends out a couple of newsletters a month as well. But if you notice that her newsletters are always focused around what's going on in her podcast, right? In fact, her podcast is doing so well that she increased the number of episodes fairly recently. It was like, I think maybe November or December time, 2019. Because when you're doing something really well and it's working, do more of that. Makes it easier. I was talking earlier in this episode about my client, Sarah Clark. Sarah's amazing. She developed the Fab Fertile method for helping people get pregnant naturally. Her podcast, also the main source of lead generation and conversation in her business. That's why she doubles down on it. She doubles down on it even. It's a brilliant way for her to communicate about an issue that's quite private, that most people don't necessarily want to be watching videos on in the office, right? But with earbuds in, anyone can listen, and it makes a real difference. If I look at Joe Rogan, his podcast, and why am I talking about look, podcasts are a big source of lead generation for most people, but Joe Rogan, his is like 4 hours long. Yet he has a dedicated audience of people who love listening to it, right? And they show up. But if you look at other business owners, perhaps let's look at some that don't have major podcasts. That would be quite hard. Podcasting is huge. You know, you guys know that Scott and I created a podcasting course. So if you ever want to learn about podcasting, put it in your business and you want to double down on it, go for it. We can help you. But let's look at other business owners. I mean, Todd Herman, for example. Todd Herman, he doubled down on video, created really cool video series. Jeff Walker is another video series advocate. He creates really valuable video series and does them really well. You know, these are guys who know that their video series are the things that are bringing in the leads, bringing in the interest. And so they're paying to have them professionally produced and edited so they look amazing. Jeff actually experimented last year with Facebook Lives for his PLF launch. And it was very, very cool to see how that worked. If you look at some of the other major success stories, you know, Denise Duffield Thomas is a huge one. And Denise, at heart, when you look at her content, she's a blogger, right? She's always been wordy. She's got amazing books published with Hay House. She has always been somebody who focuses on blogging, and it brings in her leads, helps her convert them into clients. Ash Ambage, you know, my personal hero, just launched her book. Actually, I literally just got my copy, The Middle Finger Project, and it's amazing. Just going to throw that out there. Ash is adorable. She's one of my favorite people in the world. She came on the podcast. We had a great time. I actually got to meet her and hug her in person when we both spoke at Magic Maker Live last year. And we regularly exchange gifs and hilarity in the Instagram DMs. She's a blogger. Her entire lead generation system has come from being really good at blogging. In fact, Seth Godin said that she was one of the biggest talents of our time, that she's got this original and creative flair that is so lacking in this space. And so, you know, I watch people and I think, well, why is everyone trying to do everything when you could just do one thing and you could just do it really well? And then you could use that one thing and you could repurpose it into other things if you wanted to. And it would be a lot easier for you because you would spend a lot less energy doing it. But you've got to start focusing. If you want to get clients, you want to make it easy, start doing one thing really well. Stop faffing around and trying to do all the things because you like procrastinating and you secretly think, oh, well, it's more comfortable to sit and, you know, resize all my images in Canva for all of the 90 million squillion different platforms out there. And start really focusing, where do you want to be? Like, what are you going to focus on? What are you going to double down on? And do it for 90 days and see the results. And after 90 days, if it didn't work out, cool, try something else. But don't try everything at once because it will batter your brain and it won't actually get your clients. You're so busy creating content all the time that you forget to actually create content that converts. That brings me on to my second point. The myth that we're going to bust is any content is good content. Any content will get you clients. Give value and it'll turn into clients. Build it and they will come. Yep. Okay. This probably worked in, like, let's say 2010 to 2015. Doesn't work anymore, folks. When we see big industry leaders who have built businesses off of, you know, and they showed up, they gave value, like people like Pat Flynn, people like Amy Porterfield. I really respect and admire these people, just as an FYI. But it doesn't necessarily work in the same way anymore. And people like Pat and people like Amy have moved with the times, and they do show their audiences now how to do things differently or how to deliver value differently so that it does work. But the stuff that we did in 2015, which was just whack out any old post and hope for a ton of engagement, or, you know, rock up in any old Facebook group and just give value. And I'm going to put air quotes around that because, you know, some of it's valuable and some of it's just boring self-promotion. It doesn't work to get clients anymore. You know, people always ask me why. And I'm like, well, I wish it did, because in some ways it was a lot easier. You didn't really have to try that hard. But the reality is that people are looking to consume content all of the time, right? And the more you create, the more of this consumption cycle you start. And you train your audience, expect free, expect free, expect free, expect free. And you know that I'm going to talk about baby bird syndrome here, right? The 1 minute that you offer something that is not free, they all go, oh my God, how dare you? Or worse, you get crickets. Everyone disappears. And because you're panicking, you're like, oh my God, my entire audience is gone. You're like, okay, I'll give something for free again and I'll get my engagement back up. And it's like you buy into and play into this weird serotonin cycle of, if people like my stuff, if people give me likes or comments, then, you know, that makes me feel good. And so it doesn't really matter, I guess, that I don't get clients. No, it does matter. It does matter for two reasons. One is that, you know, the more you create, the more stressed you are. The more you create, the more they will consume. The more you create that is forced, the lower the quality actually tends to be. So then you get frustrated and people aren't seeing your best work. And also the way that you react is to, you know, your audience, which you begin to feel is entitled and you're like, why am I creating all this stuff for them? They don't deserve it. They never do anything. That's not how you want to feel. The second thing is that building your business on platforms that you do not control means that at any time your business can be destroyed. And it also means that you are producing a business that is not predictable and not scalable. Now, I'm going to caveat this because there are some very successful people who build their businesses on social media. However, right, they get to really high points with it. They might even create 7-figure businesses doing it. However, the people who've built their businesses like that only on social, who have not harnessed their own business real estate, like an email list or a podcast or, you know, a subscription video channel or whatever, hosted by themselves. When things go wrong, things really go wrong, right? So they have to always be in this reactive state of, I need to create this content, or, okay, I need to make this financial goal this month. So I need to keep posting, and hope that Facebook doesn't put me in jail this month, or hope that, you know, my Instagram hashtags are working to the top of the feed, or whatever it is that platform is controlled by. And you have to hope it doesn't go down, and you have to hope that, you know, nothing messes with the algorithm, and you have to hope that nothing happens, nothing changes, so that you can still get the same reach. And I think that that's quite stressful. You know, it's not to say don't have a social strategy in your business. Of course you should. If you're selling B2C, of course you should have a social strategy. But that's why I always direct you to people like Janet, you know, who can teach you how to build your social presence and how to utilize it. But also accept that social media is not the be all and end all of your business strategy. It shouldn't be. You know, that's why smart people have multiple strands in their business. They have their, you know, they have their newsletter, they have their own business real estate that can help them convert clients. If you're reliant only on social media for your business, for lead generation and for client conversion, you're always going to be at the mercy of whatever that platform does next. Yeah. And in recent years, we've seen lots of different things happen. You know, look at Facebook. Algorithm changes every 5 minutes, changes for ads, changes for pages. You know, people realized that business profiles weren't getting as much engagement or reach. So suddenly they switched over to personal profiles. And then guess what? Facebook started putting people in jail. There are always going to be changes. You're always going to have to learn about them. So again, double down on one thing you want to do really well. Always incorporate real estate into your business, your own real estate, and start creating content that actually means that people will wait for that content and will work for that content. I mean, think about it. You guys listen to the podcast. It's not easy necessarily to listen to a podcast. You know, you have to make time to listen. You have to subscribe so that you get the reminders. You have to overcome certain challenges. You know, I always listen to podcasts, for example, when I'm going out for my daily walk or when I'm at the gym, because those are the places that I have the time and the headspace to listen. It doesn't always help if I want to make notes, but you know, I'm prepared to overcome that. I'm prepared to get back, or to keep the Keep app on my phone, or whatever, to make sure that I get the notes and I use them. So think about your content. Are you creating content that is quality content that people will wait for? Will they wait a week? Or do you have to be on this hamster wheel of producing content every single day? Otherwise people might forget your name and not know who you are. And if you're there, you need to take a breather. You know, I always liken this to, you know, dating. We don't want the partner who every 5 minutes is like in our inbox on WhatsApp or whatever, like, hi, I'm here. Do you know that I'm here? I'm still here. Maybe you want to do something tonight. Maybe you want to do this. You're just like, oh my God, just stressing me out. That's what you do with your audience when you don't create quality content they're prepared to wait for. You know, you're always trying to be in their face because you're worried they might forget about you. If you create quality content that gives the how and the what, you know, it doesn't matter how much you give them. There's only a very small percentage of people that will implement it anyway. But if you give that quality content, you're committed to showing up with quality content on a regular basis, people will wait. You know, Joe Rogan does not produce 4-hour-long podcasts every day. People have to wait for them, but they listen. You know, the My Dad Wrote a Porno podcast is a great example of this. People for 5 years, 5 seasons, they waited. They would listen one a week for the whole season. And then they'd have to wait like 9-10 months for the next season to be out. And then they do it one a week. 5 years they got that going. I'm actually going to My Dad Wrote a Porno live. I'm very excited about it. And it just goes to show you produce quality content, your audience will wait for it, and also they will pay you for it. They will pay you because they understand, wow, if your free content's that good, your paid stuff must be incredible. Yeah? Don't be afraid to create good content. And equally, brings me on to my third point, have calls to action. Please be transparent. Like, I see so many people who are out there, they're on Instagram, they're on LinkedIn, they're on Facebook, even in their own newsletters or blogs or whatever, they just don't give a call to action. They're like, oh, cool, well, you know, I hope you like this, or what do you think? Or, you know, whatever else is popular now. Leave me an emoji if you thought this was fire. I should say start doing that. That sounded so cynical, but it's true, isn't it, right? So if you want people to do something, ask them. You want people to go and download or subscribe to your episodes, tell them that. Tell them at the beginning of the episode, preferably when they'll remember. You know, you want people to go to your website, tell them, go and click here. Booking discovery calls, book your call now. Explain why. Stop creating really, really good content and wasting it because you're not prepared to put a call to action on it because you're afraid that people might stop liking you. Yeah. People really worry about that. Oh, but if I put a call to action on there, or if I sell on there, people might not like it. They might not engage with it. No, they might not. But do you know what? Those people were not going to book the call or buy from you anyway, so it doesn't matter. Instead, the people who do see it, who are interested, who might be lurkers, they'll book the call. You know, I get so many discovery calls. It's really interesting. I get so many people who book calls in my diary that I have never heard of. Since I started the Selling to Corporates podcast and since I took that direction in my business, I was really freaking out. Because I had no audience there. No audience at all. And that first month when we got 124 listens, I was so grateful. There's 124 people I didn't know listening to a podcast that, you know, I didn't know would work or not. And, you know, every single week when I talk to people or when we see people joining the Facebook group or when I get emails or whatever, I've never heard of them. My corporate event last November was full of people. I maybe knew I think I knew 8 or 9 in the room. It was a small amount of people that I actually knew. And yet I see so many people every day who are tagging me on social media, who are having conversations with me on social media, who are asking me questions. They may or may not buy any of my stuff ever. But it's the ones that don't necessarily communicate that are buying from me. You know, it's the ones that are maybe too busy to hang out in the Facebook group, but they're going to buy into a high-level program. And that's what interests me. And that's what should interest you. Stop wasting content by not having calls to action, because the people who are shouting the loudest all of the time, they may not be your buyers. So actually, if you're only ever asking those people for feedback, or if you're only ever judging your success based on what those people are doing, you might not ever get the results you want. Yeah? Because it's the people that aren't necessarily responding that may be listening, that may be ready to take action. Yeah? Doesn't mean that people are commenting all the time, by the way, that they won't ever take action or that they won't ever buy, but, you know, just watch it. Okay. It's the same as reason that I don't advocate all these pod things, you know, okay, the same 6 people comment on your post. Woohoo! It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't validate you. And yes, there are certain elements that might help it get seen by more people, but really, I'd rather my post, and they frequently do, by the way, on Instagram, we get like 10 likes. But you know what? We get a lot of real-time engagement. And I'd rather have that. I'd rather have 10 likes than 100 from people I know in pods, but 10 from people that actually are interested, actually are engaged, actually want to have a conversation. Think about that. And then finally, you know, if you're thinking about making client generation easier, I want you to do two things. One, believe me when I say that your website, your branding, your copy, your designs, your Canva skills will not make you money. They are not revenue generating activities. Having these things can, and that's the caveat, can help. But if you are struggling to get clients right now, you need to understand that those things do not get you clients. Selling does. All you need to sell is a PayPal link and an email account, right? It doesn't even need to be an autoresponder. You could literally be sending out invites by Gmail. I see so many people who are like, I'm not getting clients, but they've spent the last 6 months rewriting their website copy. You know, they've moved some pictures around, they've changed their branding. And don't get me wrong, it all looks great and I'm really happy. Like, genuinely, if it makes you happy, I'm happy. But if you're not happy because it's not getting you clients, then you need to understand that those things don't. Gone are the days where you could just whack up a website and suddenly like 50,000 people would be typing in the search terms and knocking at your door. I'm not sure that ever actually happened. Just as an FYI, like, I don't know that was ever the case. In today's society where we can choose and we can search and we can look at as much information as we want instantly, it definitely does not happen. So stop procrastinating on tasks that make you feel more comfortable. Stop trying to be uber prepared for everything. You know, these business coaches that are telling you, you need to have a lead magnet, you need to have a website, you need to have your branding sorted before you make a sale, are not confident coaches at making you money. If they were, they'd be telling you the information I am now for free. Go and sell things. You know, it sounds really cynical, it sounds really harsh, and God, don't I sound like a sarcastic piece of crap sometimes, but it's true. And it's so unfair that people are still buying into this. You do not need to have those things ready in order to sell. If you know that coaching is your thing, you can have a PayPal link. And when somebody says something in your Facebook group, or, you know, emails you with a question from your podcast, or, you know, even just writes on Facebook themselves because they're connected to you and they write in their personal profile, I'm really struggling with this, you can answer, hey, that sucks. This is my initial answer. If you need more help, I'd be totally happy to have that conversation with you. Let me know. There's nothing sleazy about that. There's nothing gross about that. You're not writing, here are my endless streams of testimonials and go to my website and you can look at all my packages and blah, 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 blah. It's just like, if you need more help, let me know. The ball is in their court. They can say yes, they can say no. I always caveat this with when people approach me and ask questions privately and they say, oh, Jess, I didn't want to post in the group because I didn't want other people to see what I was struggling with, or I didn't want to post here. And you know, I'm talking specifically about people who are not in any of my paid programs, just as a side note. But I love helping you guys, but I can't help every single one of you at the same time with like lots of different problems. And there are reasons for that. I have to be responsible to you. If I don't know the ins and outs of your business and I give you advice that is wrong because I didn't know a background or a piece of context, that's really irresponsible of me. So that's why when people approach me privately and they say, look, you know, can you give me advice on this really specific situation? I'm like, oh, unfortunately, no. Here are some questions that you can consider to go and get the best answer that you feel fits. Or here's how you can book a call with me and we can have a chat about how I could support you. That's how I do it, because I'm responsible, not because I, you know, want everybody to pay me for everything. Otherwise I wouldn't, let's face it, put so much time into creating a ton of free content for you, right? It's about responsibility. We can only give people so much at a free level. before we have to have investment from them. And that's not about having investment from them because otherwise they won't do anything with it. It's about having investment for them because it's a lot of responsibility to coach them. Yeah, I don't have any right to coach you if I don't have a contract with you, because I might give you advice that isn't correct. I might send you off on a tangent that isn't going to help you. I might, God forbid, give you advice that sets you back, mentally or in terms of revenue or whatever. That's very, very dangerous. So all I can do is give you questions, and all I can do is help you work through to a solution that you feel is the right fit. I can't categorically say, go and do this, unless it's something very, very simple, because it might not be right. Yeah. I have to take responsibility for you. And that means sometimes, even though I'd love to be like, right, you should go and do this and that and means I have to hold back, because I can't do that, because I don't know everything yet. I don't know the context. I don't know the specific situation. I don't know what you want to build with your business. Yeah. But if you are a coach and you know that coaching is what you want to do, you don't need to have all your offers mapped out. You can just coach somebody. You can say, oh, look, I'm going to run this package with you, and it's going to be over a month, and it's going to help you do X and Y. You can do that with a PayPal link and an email address. Yeah. If you do done for you work, like you create websites or something, and somebody says, oh my goodness, I'm having horrendous problems with website provider number one, you can say, hey, look, I can help you with that. I wouldn't be able to do it for free because it wouldn't be fair on my paying clients, but let me know if you need an expert. Always happy to help, or always happy to talk about it. Again, PayPal link, email address, or PayPal link, comment on a post. You don't need to be so worried that you've got to have the website, you've got to have the branding, you've got to be featured in 60 squillion magazines before you sell. Sell first, build up your presence over time, and create a sustainable and profitable business. If you've got something from this episode, then my big call to action is please go and leave a review. It really does help us in iTunes, and also we did create that snazzy little guide for you. I'm going to see you in next week's episode. Very excited. We've got some cool stuff coming on the podcast to finish off March in style. And next week is all about gamifying your business to help your clients get better results and help you get paid. I will see you next Monday. Have an awesome week.